Good afternoon, it's 2 p.m. This is Market View, the Tuesday edition. My name is Lungile Makakula. Thank you for tuning in. The Kingdom of Eswatini has committed to closing the gender gap in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. The Global Gender Gap Report 2023 shows that Eswatini is ranked 46th out of 146 for gender equality. These stats were revealed during a World Bank-supported job shadowing program at government institutions and private companies to encourage girls to study STEM at university. This program was aimed at exposing high schoolers to STEM careers. Women in Engineering, an organization, says less than 30% of women in the country are in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics space. The co-founder and managing director, Bongagile Matenjo, says although a few women have been able to start businesses in this sector, they are pushing to overcome the stereotype associated with becoming a female engineer. She'll be joining us later on the program to talk about how the organization is uplifting women engineers to ensure that they become major contributors to the economy. And as usual, Sanela Sibia will connect with us via Zoom for today's financial markets. For now, let's go to business news. The Standard Bank Luchi Food and Lifestyle Festival held at House on Fire over the past weekend attracted over 300 traders. This has been said by the Executive Head of Brand and Marketing, Sibusile Sikwane, when sharing an update about the event.
Standard Bank Luju Food and Lifestyle Festival has over the past 6 years become Eswatini's biggest event, drawing people even from abroad. We were interested in finding out how this event is changing the economic landscape for micro, small and medium enterprises. Executive Head of Brand and Marketing Sibusile Sikwane says they have seen an increase in small and medium enterprises participating in the event over the years.
We did see a record number of over 300 traders pitching and positioning their different wares at Luju. Now, when we speak to traders, we speak to a broad or like a vast feature of traders that that are into different sectors as well. We have traders that are within the food sector. We have traders that are pitching within the arts and craft sector as well. We also have traders who are pitching their fashion designs, who are not only positioning the fashion wares that they design and produce locally. We also had fashion designers coming as far as Lesotho, as well as South Africa, to name but a few. So it was really brilliant to see the trader space grow as well when we compare to how the Standard Bank Luju Food and Lifestyle event started in 2018.
She says they have also made it easy for small and medium enterprises to participate in the event.
What we are noticing is, though eMaswati do apply, we also just note that not a lot of eMaswati that we also look forward to seeing apply actually do apply. And I think there's maybe a bit more work we need to do around training and, just driving a bit of more knowledge around what the trader space speaks to within the context of the festival. There's an even bigger plan to take some of our local SMEs to showcase and demonstrate their wares across the different standard banks that exist or that operate rather in the broader Africa regions. For instance, we collaborated with Standard Bank Lesotho, who brought in a fashion designer from Lesotho. So that's part of leveraging the power and presence of the Standard Bank brand, which exists across Africa.
Standard Bank has reported that last year alone, traders generated about 2.1 million emalangeni. The event attracts over 10,000 people from Eswatini and across the globe. For Market View, Nelson Ngamandla, Siphiwo Sami Gininza Invuminkosi Nzinisa Mbabane.
For international story, U.S. stocks are set to open sharply lower on Monday, adding to steep declines in Asia and Europe and deepening a sell-off tied to worries about a recession in the U.S. economy. Japan's main index plunged more than 12%, its worst day since 1987.
A black day for the Nikkei. Japan's benchmark stock index fell by a record 4,451 points to mark a more than 12% loss on Monday. The Kospi in Seoul down nearly 9%. Those precipitous drops came as interest rate hikes from the Bank of Japan continued to strengthen the yen against the dollar. Good news for Japanese consumers, but bad news for the country's exporters, like automakers. The Nikkei is now officially in a bear market, down more than 20% from its most recent peak.
I think there is some panic selling happening here. Up to now, short-term investors have been piling into Japanese stocks, and we're seeing those positions being unwound all at once.
The sell-off spreading worldwide, European shares near 6-month lows as indexes followed Asia down, though much less sharply. Investors are chiefly worried that the world's top economy, the U.S., is headed for a major slowdown, if not a full-blown recession. A boom in AI stocks has begun to deflate amid a raft of disappointing earnings reports from tech firms. Meanwhile, Friday's U.S. jobs report, with 114,000 new payrolls for the month of July, came in far lower than expected. The hiring slowdown bringing unemployment to its highest level in 3 years. The Federal Reserve has raised America's benchmark interest rates to their highest levels in more than 2 decades, part of a largely successful bid to bring down inflation that peaked at 9.1% in mid-2022. Investors, though, now worried that the Fed has held rates too high for too long. Many are expecting the bank to begin cutting rates aggressively to try and hold on to the U.S. economy's soft landing.
It's 7 minutes after 2, and that's it for our business news. Naspi Etimagete will be speaking to Bongegile Matenja. Stay tuned.
sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sivile sive sikhulume
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Women Enduring Eswatini says less than 30% of women in the country are in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics space. The founder and managing director, Bongegile Matenja, says although few women have been able to start businesses in this sector, they are pushing to overcome the stereotype associated with becoming a female engineer. She joins me now to talk about ways in which Women Enduring Eswatini is trying to uplift women engineers to ensure that they become major contributors to the economy. Very good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us, Bongegile. You started this organization mainly because you saw a gap in the industry. Inganani vele le gap banganani bomage that are actually in the industry, women and young girls.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. To your question, based on the statistics that we have in the country, although we still have a challenge in terms of data gathering, but data shows that there's about 30% of women in science, technology, engineering in Eswatini.
Okay.
So 70 out of 10 women, out of 10 people in the STEM industry, there's only 3 female who are professionals in the industry, which is quite low.
It's very low. So, Isalagopi, and I assume you did your research, upon establishing your organization, Lebuge Veleti Tinzabate STEM, Science, Technology, and Mathematics.
So there's quite a lot that contributes to the low numbers. Firstly, if you look in the home setup, you find you will see as Sakula and Tomatana, they're more channeled towards the softer tasks in house. And so they're not necessarily groomed to actually take on difficult challenges like boys do. And also the fact that even as they grow up, they get to high school and university, they only see a majority of the men in the STEM careers. They see STEM careers as very male required, in terms of you need to have strength or certain physique to survive in the STEM industry.
Yeah.
So there's a lack of role models who are females in the STEM industry for these girls to look up to. And also at the same time, there's been a belief that STEM subjects back at primary, high school, they're very hard. So females then tend to shy away from subjects, although it has been proven now and again, even from the Form 3, Form 5 results, girls are smarter. But because of those stereotypes, they then shy away from these STEM careers. And then also lastly, the fact that also, because we have a majority of men in the industry, the opportunities for female to actually thrive in the industry, currently now they face quite a lot of challenges. If you look at all the leaders that we have in the country, most of them are males. So even if you get into the industry, for you as a woman to actually thrive and become an MD or CEO, it does take you quite a lot of work. Probably you have to work twice as hard as your male counterpart to actually get there. So there's quite a lot of activities that we still need to actually gender stereotypes that we need to overcome, and I believe Eswatini is working towards that direction. The government has done quite a lot in terms of empowering the girl child and to take on STEM careers. We've seen government hosting STEM career fairs. There's been also STEM expos by the Royal Science Technology Park. Even us as women in engineering, Eswatini, we've done a lot in terms of going out to the high schools, primary schools, to actually educate the girls that they can actually take on STEM careers if we were able. And the good thing about what we do is that we show them through our own personal stories. So the people who go that we have in our group are only females in STEM. So we believe that as the girls look up to us and they see us thriving in the industry, they too can also be inspired and empowered.
Yeah, as I listen to you talk, I still get the impression that there's still this perception that this industry is for males. But has it changed over the years? The mindset, girls can also partake in STEM careers.
There's been a change, but not as significant as it should. So currently there is that. There are those stereotypes where the girls still believe that this STEM industry is mostly for men, and hence why we are trying to change that perception by working with women already in the industry to go to these girls to show them that, hey, yes, perhaps maybe around your community you only see males in the STEM industry, but they are females. And as we bring them together, connecting them through mentorship and coaching, it then helps them to build their own self-belief to say that, hey, if she can do it, then definitely I can.
So can I.
Yeah.
So what are these career paths that, students can follow if they partake in STEM subjects? But because engineers, but what are the career paths?
I believe that STEM is actually the world around us. There is no career that does not, there's no industry that doesn't have a STEM professional. If you look at the hospitals, we have nurses, doctors, we have laboratory technicians. Those are STEM professionals. If you go to the construction industry, you have civil engineers, you have quantity surveyors. Those are STEM careers. You go to the entertainment industry, for instance, Eswatini TV. You have technicians, sound engineers. Those are STEM careers. So there's quite a lot of careers in STEM that girls can actually take on, and that is why we believe that we cannot have a thriving STEM industry with the majority or half of the population not represented.
Yeah.
So we need more women and girls to participate in the STEM industry to develop good business opportunities and initiatives, coming up with innovative ideas that could help Eswatini get to the first world data that it wants to.
Yeah. Speaking of businesses, you did mention Bongegelo Kuti, there's about 30% of young women and girls that are in the STEM careers. kule nombolo leyo, how many do they have their businesses and are sustainable?
What we have seen is, because they are a minority, they tend to work very hard and excel in what they do, because they want to have a voice and eventually get more people to, more customers, I mean. And so we've seen quite a lot of women, even in our organization, that have started up businesses that are STEM related. And like I said earlier, STEM is the world around us, so there's no business that does not have a STEM professional. So you've seen in the construction industry, there's some women already that are owning construction companies that are already thriving, although because of their male dominance, they're still growing, which is also an opportunity even for government to also support them as well. We have women who are quantity surveyors doing consulting having consulting companies. So their companies are also thriving as well. We've also have women who are also in the chemical analytical space who also have their own firms as well, which are thriving. So we have seen a change or contribution from women even in the economy space.
Okay, so with the expos and the career expos that you normally host as women in engineering, what is the level of interest, from students? Do they ask a lot of questions? Are they inquisitive, about this industry?
Yes, definitely there is. It's from the girls that we work with, because what we have targeted are mostly the schools that are outside, the city centers and your towns, where they lack information about the different careers that they can pursue. So coming in there, they then value the information that we share with them. And also the fact that currently we have a crisis in the unemployment rate. So now there's a lot of interest in terms of people trying to develop businesses initiatives just so that they can have a stable source of income. So there is also that interest as well to say, if I'm a STEM professional, what sort of business initiatives can I actually start? And then that's where we then bring along the females who are already running businesses to share their story and help and support them up until the girls eventually also have their own businesses. And recently, as part of our program, we've even developed a competition where we've asked the girls to identify a problem that they encounter in their community and try and develop a solution to it that they can actually turn into a business idea. And we have seen a few of those girls coming up with great initiatives that we've developed.
Yeah. So bangekela kuba khona lokho ukuthi some learners bayakhala ukuthi these subjects are quite difficult, math, science, technology, but how can you help them overcome that mentality? Kumele ukuthi bene njani ukuthi batimisele ukuthi batobang lokho labafuna kubangekho?
What we have seen, and also even basing it even on my own personal experiences while I was still in high school, I would not lie to say that STEM subjects are not easy. I mean, they're not difficult. They're not easy. And so therefore what we have done is we've basically just used our own personal experiences to help them. Firstly, the mentorship. The ones that, for instance, let's say if you identify a girl who wants to pursue a career in medicine, and because part of the subjects that they have to pass is chemistry and physics, we then connect them with a woman who's already in that space who can help them in terms of tutoring, perhaps maybe not necessarily them, but can connect them with a tutor to just support them in terms of their studies. Because you also work with girls at university that are also studying towards STEM professions, they've also been big sisters to the girls in primary, high school, and to help them in terms of their studies and also in terms of career guidance. So those initiatives have also helped to strengthen their maths or physics skills so that they can eventually do well in those subjects.
All right, thank you so much, Kupanathi Bongegele. Let's hope ukuthi my students avile your advice. Ukuthi these subjects amalula kahle kahle just need to be more determined, all right? That was Bongegele Mathenjwa sichaza njengama opportunities that are there in the STEM career. So when we come back, we connect with Mr. Spear.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back. This is Market View, the Tuesday edition. We now connect with Sunil SBI economist to give us today's financial markets. Mr. SBI, very good afternoon and welcome to the program. Let's start off with the international markets. What's happening there? We saw that the US market, the Nikkei rebounds at 10%. The pound declined against the US dollar today, and the FTSE 100 rebounds from lows amid broader gains. What is happening in the international markets?
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon to the viewer at home. What we are seeing is that kind of a roller coaster type of volatility that is happening in the markets. For example, if we start with the US, we know that on closing yesterday, the US markets closed lower. Across all indices, there was still, following that sell-off that we saw on Friday, post that weak economic data coming out of the US. So even yesterday, the markets in the US continued that sell-off. But when you look at futures now, futures are inching up higher, following a release of, improving services sector performance in the US, and also against the backdrop of the fact that we're expecting interest rates to eventually start going down in that market. So we are seeing that happening in the US. And then when we go to London and into the greater Euro region, what we are seeing happening in Europe is markets are rebounding, following those news of improved service sector performance in the US, and also on the expectations of an interest rate cut in the short to medium term, probably starting in September. But what markets are weighing now is that going to be an issue of too little too late in terms of the US going into a recession? That's why we are seeing those modest gains, because when the US goes into a recession, that's the biggest consumer economy, so that will actually hurt demand across the globe and might affect the performance of markets. But what we are seeing happening, interestingly, in Europe is, there's been some positive earnings coming out just in the past, over the past 24 hours. So that has somehow helped to stabilize market fears of a recession in the US, to really just focus on the short-term gains that stand to be made, from the property, from the earnings that are being presented. Interestingly, what we are seeing though is, if you look at France is the only market that we track that has not rebounded, but that's purely because the construction sector in Paris is not really performing very well. So we're seeing the CAC 40 really edging down to the 6,000 mark, really going to its lows, its all-time lows. So that's what is happening there. And then when we go to Asia, what we are seeing there is that huge rebound in markets. We look at markets, in the previous day, the Nikkei lost around 12%, but only to gain back 11% of that trade. So what we are seeing there is, there's investors who are coming in to really try to scoop off those bargains, because during the sell-off, the share prices really do drop. So we see new investors coming in to try and scoop off those bargains when, just getting low, so that you can come out higher in the market. So what we're seeing, those that's happening in Japan. And interesting in Japan is the fact that, when you look at the fundamentals are okay. When you look at the micro integrities, we're seeing, companies like Toyota and, other tech giants in Japan really posting very good earnings, and also showing the fact that, yes, and as much as an economy, Japan is still trying to figure its way on how to prop up the Japanese yen. But in terms of the fundamentals, in terms of production, in terms of output, and in terms of the market share, the Japanese markets are still performing very well. So we are still going to expect that when we are going through that transition phase, to see how Japan transitions from that negative impact to negative interest rate territory to this positive interest rate territory, because that has actually made Japanese based assets that were purchased using the Japanese yen have actually become relatively expensive in the market. So it's just that short-term adjustment that we are seeing happening in Japan. Just when you look at Hong Kong is still trading behind, but we're waiting to see what's going to happen when we see how Wall Street starts to react, when it eventually opens, when it reacts to those positive news in terms of the services sector. And then coming down to South Africa, again, we are seeing there is still that sell-off in the South African markets, but it has now somehow reduced. The pace of the sell-off has actually reduced. That's actually on the background of the fact that we've seen some positive news come out of the US, and also the fact that we are seeing the likelihood of an interest rate cut coming up in September. We've now moved from 1 interest rate expectations to 2, given the economic dimensions, given the fact that the economy is slowing, jobs are not being created as fast as one would have hoped. So that's why we're seeing the JS is still losing some steam, the BAT remaining in very high zones, and we hope that as more life returns to Wall Street, we'll eventually see life returning to Johannesburg as well. And then in the local stock exchange, what we are seeing is we're still on that 491.8 region, which means we still have ways to go in terms of automating and ensuring that trades in our stock market really are actually done in real time, and we make it easier for Eswatini to trade. Thank you.
All right, bringing it home, how's the Lilangeni reacting to markets this afternoon? Has the Princess Buganjine Japanese yen as well as the pound reacting to markets this afternoon?
Thank you. So what we are seeing in the markets is we see the Lilangeni continuing to be weak against the yen and also against the dollar. So what is happening right now with the uncertainty and the interest and the recession fears, what that has done, it has actually forced markets to shift from equities to safe haven type of markets. And what we are seeing the happening is, people are moving more towards bonds, and that has somehow increased the demand for the dollar. And, the news coming out of an improving sales data coming out from the US has also improved the dollar. Hence, we see the Lilangeni continuing to weaken against the dollar. And when you look against the yen, the Bank of Japan has spent approximately $100 billion to try and prop up the Japanese yen, such that it still remains in weak territory, but that the goal is to push it towards at least 1:100 against the dollar. So all of those initiatives happening within Japan are actually resulting in a much stronger Japanese yen. And when you come against the euro, we can see that the fundamentals in the greater euro region are really not so strong in terms of the basics, in terms of the growth prospects. So that's why we are seeing the Lilangeni, getting a bit of strength against the euro, edging closer to the 20 mark.
All right, lastly, that's Bonjima Commodities. Gold was trading at $2.4 yesterday, and the Brent crude oil being 75 amalangeni for 75.48 cents. Today.
So what we are seeing in gold, gold is somehow benefiting from all this carnage that is happening in Wall Street. And also we're on the expectation of an interest rate cut in September. So gold continues to sparkle because, in the short to medium term, gold becomes this currency, this commodity that can actually hold money. So all of this carnage is somehow benefiting those who are holding gold, such that we are seeing it today still holding the 2,400 mark with just as much marginal gain. And then in terms of our Brent crude oil, what we are seeing there is the improvement in the numbers coming out from the US in terms of the sales data, and also, just bringing in renewed confidence in the markets has somehow improved in terms of the price of Brent crude oil. But what we are seeing, interestingly, though, is markets are still a bit edgy around the issue of a full-blown war in the Middle East, because we are now seeing Iran tethering on the edge of actually joining that war in Gaza and Israel. And Iran is the major contributor in terms of the major producer of oil in the Middle East. So we are just watching to see those in terms of how we are going to be shifting towards a full-blown war.
All right, thanks so much, Mr. Spear, for that analysis. And we've come to the end of our program, Lomohla. You've been watching Market View, the Tuesday edition. See you again tomorrow at exactly 2 p.m. for Netbank Business Watch. Enjoy the rest of your day.